I've said this in the past, but this really will be Konami's best booster pack ever released for the modern format. We have cards like the Sinful Spoil engine, we have the Horus engine, we have SP Little Knight and Typhon to ruin the modern format of Yu-Gi-Oh! If you hate how Yu-Gi-Oh! Is played right now, if you love how Yu-Gi-Oh! Is played right now, I think this is going to be one of the coolest booster packs for you to pick up and hopefully collect. So with that being said, let's get into what I believe will be one of the best booster packs ever released in the history of Yu-Gi-Oh! Let's get into it. So I want to start off by shouting out the best, I want to say most broken cards coming out of Age of Overlord. Let's start off with Zeus's older brother, who is actually a direct counter to Zeus. And it's a pretty interesting card. You can actually summon it by basically playing Yu-Gi-Oh! I know that sounds really weird, but let me explain. If your opponent to special summon 2 or more monsters from the extra deck in their turn, you can special summon this card by simply summoning it over another monster. You don't need an Exceed monster. An Exceed monster does not even have to attack, and you now have a floodgate for monsters that are 3k or more attack, which a lot of classic negate monster boards will have. So you're already going to be countering them with a simple summon. Now, unfortunately, it does lock you out of normal and special summoning for the rest of the turn, but I seriously think that is a great drawback considering how powerful this card is. Because it says for the rest of the turn, you can actually do this right at the end of your own combo or your own play. So you're really getting a lot of value out of just having a random monster on the field. It's also a 29 beat stick, and once per turn, a soft once per turn, you can detach 1 material from this card and return 1 monster on the field to the hand. So I can see this being splashed in pretty much every single deck in the existence and history of Yu-Gi-Oh! I really think this card is going to take over as potentially the most splashable extra deck monster, and it's really ironic for me to say that actually, because moving on to SP Little Knight, the most splashable monster in the extra deck for the entirety of Yu-Gi-Oh! That's a big statement to say, but I really think that's going to happen, and we can already basically see that with OCG deck lists. SP Little Knight only needs 2 effect monsters. Unfortunately, its arrows are left and right, but once I explain the effects, you'll understand why. This card, if it had a extra type monster used as the material for this, which usually is IP Masquerade if you follow the lore, that means you can target a monster on the field and banish it. So already a pretty great disruption on the opponent's turn, and also I guess makes IP even more effective. But here's where it gets really interesting. When your opponent activates a card or effect, banish it itself, target 2 face-up monsters on the field, and then including at least 1 monster you control, banish both monsters until the end phase. Again, for a card that does not take a lot of setup to summon or even use, people are going to get away with a lot of disruption. And also, by the way, you can use SP Little Knight to summon another version. So hot take, I think this card will actually be a 2-of in a lot of decks that don't really need the extra deck. And because its link arrows are left and right, when it does come back to the field, guess what? There are decks that can abuse that with the co-links, and so I'm really excited for this card and what it can bring to the game. I think everyone needs to watch out for this card. It's also 1600, which is double IP's attack, and honestly 1600 will help you get over a lot of things. Yeah, I highly recommend you have to pick up at least 1 copy of this card, but you definitely want to. It's going to be one of the most influential cards in the history of Yu-Gi-Oh! Remember when I said this set is one of the best sets in modern Yu-Gi-Oh! And how a lot of things are going to be splashable? We're moving on to Star, the Dark Witch, the Sinful Spoils Snake Eye archetypes. It can send itself and a lot of other things to grave to gain advantage, but in the splashable part of the archetype, you play Star, the Dark Witch, you play the card that searches it, and you play the card that specials a level 1 fire monster from the deck. The best one is probably Jet Synchron, which once per duel can come back from the graveyard for even more synchro extensions. I think this card opens up a lot of new ways to play the game, and honestly, I cannot wait for a power deck to be revived again. With all these splashable engines, with all these great generic cards, I can definitely see something like that happening. It's actually turned Rescue Ace into one of the best tier 1 decks we've seen in the OCG. Rescue Ace Hydrant is a level 1 fire monster as well, so you are really taking advantage of the power level of this card. Sinful Spoils Hunter Fiend is the crazy search card. So what this does, add 1 Star monster from your deck or graveyard to your hand. During your main phase, you can banish this card from your graveyard, target one of your Sinful Spoils spell or traps that is banished or in the grave, place it to the bottom of the deck and draw 1 card. Like I said, the spell card that specials the level 1 fire monsters will now be shuffled into the deck. So you basically have a 5-card engine that does recursion, that draws you a card, that specials from the deck, and summons a level 7 Star monster. So this is pretty exciting stuff. So how this engine works is you would activate the Sinful Spoils Hunter Fiend, add 1 Star monster from your deck or graveyard to your hand. You can send another card on your hand from your hand or field to grave, special summon this card. Then it can set a Sinful Spoils spell or trap from your deck. You now to activate original Sinful Spoils, send 1 other face-up card you control to the graveyard, which could be and probably is Star herself. Special summon one level 1 fire monster from your hand or deck. And so you can banish this card from your graveyard, then target one Snake Eye or Diabellstar monster in your graveyard, add one level 1 fire monster from your deck to your hand, then place the monster on the bottom of the deck. Banish it from your graveyard, target one of your Sinful, Spoil, spell or traps that is banished or in your graveyard, place it on the bottom of the deck, and then draw one card. Just reading these cards alone, I have high hopes for the Sinful Spoils archetype, but as an engine, this is pretty insane. And so I highly recommend you pick these cards up. And if you're a Rescue Ace player, this is going to be the engine we run in it for a long time. And what might make it tier 1? Snake Eyes Flamberge Dragon. You're going to be your boss monster aside of Diabellstar the Dark Witch, and basically is a rank 1, I guess, spam combo buildable deck where you can now set spell trap cards that offer removal, offer board wipes, and I think it's something that has not been discovered enough in the OCG. So I guess it's up to us to find out what is broken in this. This card has great spot removal. You can target monster in the grave or on the field and just put it in the spell trap card zone, which is great removal, one of the best removals in Yu-Gi-Oh! During your opponent's turn, you can target a monster card on the field, treat it as a continuous spell, and then you special summon it. Again, a lot of things are lining up for this deck. Flamberge can also special summon 2 level 1 fire monsters from your graveyard, and because the level 1 fire monsters will send itself and another card anyway, you're going to quickly build up your graveyard. Sinful Spoil Sylvia is going to allow you to negate things your opponent controls. If they try to respond to your Diabellstar or Sinful Spoil effects, you have another negate. Diabellstar will let you set it. So you do also have a guaranteed negate. Sinful Spoils Lucilia is really interesting. I love this card design. Target one level 7 or higher spellcaster. That monster is unaffected by other monster effects this turn. It is a really good board wipe in a very interesting way, where first the opponent's monsters will lose all their attack. Then if it goes to 0, just like a certain god card Life of the Sky Dragon, you will then be able to destroy those monsters. This is a really exciting archetype. I can't wait to see what people make up with this, as it is very generic and doesn't limit you to too much. The Horus archetype, King Sarcophagus, is basically a rank 8 spam, but nothing like we've ever seen before. Being splashable, being something that doesn't give you a drawback, because you can activate the spell 4 times per turn, send a card from your hand to the graveyard, and a foolish spell a Horus monster. If King Sarcophagus is on the field, you simply special summon them. King Sarcophagus does a lot more than that. If a Horus monster battles, the opponent's monster will be sent to the graveyard. So it seems like you're giving your opponent an ultimatum every single action they do, and all the Horus cards have incredible effects. And I'm pretty sure King Coach Jan Trainer, if you couple that with this archetype, you have a draw 3. If they send a card on the field to the grave, all your Horus monsters will have crazy busted effects. If they try to get rid of your Horus monsters by battle, then they'll also go to the graveyard. And I am now incredibly curious how people are going to shapeshift this archetype. Again, with Castillo Rise Up being banned, Konami has really paved the way for a lot of new archetypes to become their best potentials. These are just the busted cards we're covering, what I think are going to be the most powerful, most influential in Yu-Gi-Oh! History. In my opinion, this will be one of the best booster packs to ever come out.